I'm going to tell you exactly how you can cut through ambiguity as a product manager. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another video. My name is Alex. If you're new to the channel, you want to learn about business, finance, product management, make sure to subscribe now and hit the bell icon so you don't miss anything. Today, we're going to continue to talk about product management training, fundamentals. This is part 3, getting through ambiguity. How do we bring order to the chaos all around us? If you want to start this series from the beginning, the link to the first video is in the description. It covers product management fundamentals, product management training, what you need to know as a product manager. Make sure to share this video with any of your friends who may be interested in building businesses or products. And of course, smash the like button and comment down below with what topics you'd like covered next. We are very close to the 500 subscriber count, so make sure you subscribe now if you're interested in the topic of product management, or if you're a business owner or co-founder of a startup. Make sure to subscribe, hit the bell icon. First things first, why does ambiguity exist? Why is there such a concept around product managers needing to get through ambiguity, be able to cut through and make sense of the world when it doesn't necessarily make sense? When you're comparing apples to oranges, when you don't know what direction to go, you don't know what the right decision is to make. Ambiguity generally exists all over in the world of product management, and it mostly has to do with the fact that we just don't know a lot of stuff. And sometimes we don't even know what we don't know. And a lot of the times, the things we're comparing, the decision paths or the product options, or even the choices of what we can do, usually are so diverse and so different from one another that it's extremely difficult to actually evaluate anything and make sense of anything that's going on. Also, as product managers, we've got to deal with a lot of different stakeholders: the customers, the engineers, the rest of the cross-functional team, the designers, the key stakeholders, it's management, directors, executives, the media, the public, our own interests, and our own backlog. We have to contend with all of that and somehow still chart a path forward. And so I think one of the first things we have to do is just understand that ambiguity is just going to happen. There's nothing really you can do to avoid it entirely. So first thing you got to do is accept that it's going to happen and embrace it if you can. Try to look at it as a challenge, another problem to get past. And a lot of the most successful product managers do not shy away from ambiguity. They deal with the ambiguity head on, latch on to something so they can make decisions and keep moving. Most importantly is keep moving. In an earlier video, we covered 10x thinking for product managers, how to think big as a product manager. Check out that video if you want to start from there. We're going to walk through how you're going to be able to get past that ambiguity. But first thing, I just want to be clear, in product management, everywhere you go, there's going to be no clear answer, especially as you progress higher and higher in the levels, in seniority, in company, in leadership, leading bigger products, bigger pieces of products, sometimes entire product lines or organizations. Things are going to make less and less sense. Decisions are going to be less and less clear. That's just something you're going to have to accept. One of the key aspects for a product manager is being able to actually move forward in the face of ambiguity. And some of the more seasoned product managers completely are impervious to the anxiety that ambiguity tends to cause those less seasoned product managers. So the first thing is we're going to just accept ambiguity. It's going to happen. Then we're going to figure out exactly how we're going to deal with it, what tools we're going to be able to leverage to move past it, and how we're going to make the best decisions despite the ambiguity around us. All right, the second issue is why it's important to have to do something about ambiguity, why we can't let ambiguity actually persist in any given space or product for too long. The reason is it tends to kill action, tends to kill projects, tends to kill products. It tends to stop things from moving forward. Whenever there's ambiguity, there's a lack of clarity. And whenever there's a lack of clarity, team members will slow down and eventually stop entirely because they don't know where they're going, why they're doing what they're doing, and whether what they're doing is actually the right thing to do. So this doubt about the direction, if something's not quite clear, doesn't make sense, maybe some team members don't understand it, sometimes they don't want to admit that they don't understand it, they don't know how to make a decision, how to evaluate the trade-offs, and they will slowly lose steam, lose momentum, sometimes give up entirely. Sometimes it happens in even more nefarious ways where you don't even know that the progress has slowed or stopped because of some hidden ambiguity, some hidden aspects of the project or product that just don't make sense to the people that are working, and they can't get past this internal anxiety that it's causing. A lot of this anxiety comes from a very rational human desire for control and our fear of the unknown. Very often it happens when we are faced with a decision that doesn't make any sense. We don't know why we should choose option A or option B. sometimes we don't even know what choices there are. We feel like there's too many options that we could go, too many directions we could go. And when we do narrow it down, we don't know how to pick from each. All the possible ramifications of path A versus path B. So now let's talk about how we can actually find our way out of this. Now, if you have not actually worked as a product manager and you haven't actually led project or product teams, you may not know exactly what I'm talking about, but it still will be very helpful for you to understand how to get past this problem when it does arise, because I assure you, it will arise when you actually get your hands dirty and start working. If you've ever tried to start a company or your own venture or organize an event, I think you know what I'm talking about. It's that feeling that you're not quite sure what to do next. You don't know how best to proceed. Sometimes you get stuck just trying to optimize things that maybe don't make too much sense, but you're focusing your energy on that because you don't want to deal with the actual opaque situation in front of you because of how much it doesn't make any sense. Procrastination a lot of times is caused by ambiguity, by not understanding what's happening. We procrastinate that which we don't understand. You don't know how to start approaching the solution because you don't really understand the problem. And because of that, your instinct is just to get away from it, hide it underneath, procrastinate, don't deal with it now. And that's perfectly normal. But as product managers, we're going to get that a lot. So it's very important for us to know how we're going to deal with it, get specific ways we're going to proceed forward. The first thing you can do when faced with ambiguity is go back to your vision or your principles, your product or company vision or mission statement, or the principles. A lot of times you may be familiar with a company mission statement or its vision. What is the ultimate purpose of the company? Why does it exist? What problem does it solve for the user? How does it want to change the world? Or how does it want to change whatever aspect of the customer's lives or the user's lives? That's the mission of the company. And a lot of times it can be helpful to actually zoom out all the way back to the mission of the company to help you make sense of whatever problem you're dealing with right now. It actually goes hand in hand with asking why repeatedly until you actually unearth some interesting concepts or interesting directions in which to pursue your thinking. What are principles? Principles are statements of fact about your product, about your company, about your culture that are your guiding ideals. For instance, it could be an ideal for customer service, leave no man behind, attention to detail, the lowest priced leader, abundance, the finest designs, the most reliable systems, the most respectful work culture, the best environment for our coworkers. Any number of principles. Principles could be at the company level. What is the company all about? How does it want to relate to its customers and to its employees and coworkers? It could be at the product level. What is this product all about? How does it interact with other products? What are its foundational ideals, foundational principles? What is it founded in? What does it want to accomplish? So the first thing you can do to combat ambiguity is go back to the mission statement, to the vision, and to the principles and see if that will guide a way forward. If you can say, aha, according to our principles, this is what's important for us. Let's focus on that. See if that helps move you forward. Most of these methods are going to get you incremental movement, incremental solutioning to whatever ambiguity you're stuck with. So, of course, feel free to combine as many of these as necessary in order to get you moving forward. The ultimate goal is to get you moving forward and unstuck. Don't get bogged down by the ambiguity, by the confusion around you, even if others are. And actually, when you think about your principles, it's important to think about prioritization. Principles lets you get back to the things that are important for your company or product. And prioritization as a concept is extremely important for product managers. I have a separate video talking about prioritization for product managers. Check that out for a little more information about prioritization specifically. The second concept has to do with things that we know to be true. Sometimes they're called first principles. It's not necessarily the ideals of the company or the product. It is more realities. These are postulates. These are things we know to be true for certain. Go back to those as far back as you can. If you don't know how a customer will act, how much a user would pay, or how they would interact with this feature, or whether we should develop this feature or that feature, or how should we respond to a particular customer complaint, again, go back to the things that we know to be true. What are some things that we definitely know to be true? Do we know the user problem for sure? Do we fully understand that? Do we know how users will behave in a certain situation? Can we go back to that? Go back to the beginning and see if you can build on top of these first principles to get you to a place where you can make a decision. Thinking about first principles of something is also an important part of thinking like a product manager. And I've got a separate video, 10 ways you can learn how to think like a product manager and get into the field of product management. Check that out. The next methodology of cutting through ambiguity is to break the problem down into smaller chunks. And once you've broken it down, break it into even smaller subsegments. The idea is you reduce the footprint of your requirement for decision making and of the situation in front of you, and try to deal with it in pieces. Instead of thinking, which customer should we go after, this demographic or this entirely different demographic, try to break that down. What is it about this demographic that is interesting to you? Analyze that piece by piece. Break down each demographic into foundational pieces and analyze those and see if that pushes you forward towards a decision. If you're looking at two completely disparate, separate demographic segments, you might be tempted to say, I don't know how to make a decision between these two. But if you break them down and understand, okay, here are the different attributes of this segment, here are the different characteristics of this segment. Now let's start analyzing each subsection piece by piece and see if it moves you forward. An important point here is you want to deal with those one at a time. You want to understand those little segments. See if you can take this big idea, break it down into small pieces, each of which you can understand. And if you can, once you understand all the little pieces, the entirety of the picture can come together. A lot of this is going to be fairly theoretical unless you've done product management and building and businesses in the past, in which case it's actually going to be very practical. But in the case that you don't have a lot of experience, just try to take in the theoretical aspects of it. Think of it as philosophical or psychological training for being a product manager. The next technique is to ask yourself, after you've broken down the big question into smaller issues, ask yourself, what piece of information or multiple pieces of information, what data do you need in order to help you make a decision? And write down each piece of information that you think might be helpful to solving it. Make a list. What are the questions that you need to answer? Let those questions guide you on a further path. Break down those questions and keep noting what information you need. What would help you get an answer on the higher order question? Practically how you do it is you actually start an empty document and you just start writing your thoughts. Write what you know. What do you know about this problem? What do you know about each piece of this problem? How can you break it down? Describe each of those elements. What information do you need in order to make a decision on any one of these or understand the situation a little bit more? Make an inventory of those on the document. You can write out, this is what we understand about this problem. Here's why it's difficult to make a decision. Here's what's confusing about it. If we knew A, B, and C, we might make more progress. Then start to get the information for A, B, and C. Write down what is happening with this whole situation. Describe the situation. Who's involved? Why is it important? What's happening? What's going to happen? Write down, why am I thinking about this? Why is this important for me to think about? Why is this on my mind? Why do I have to deal with this situation? A lot of this is actually similar to the way that we do 10x thinking, which is a way of thinking big as a product manager. And I've got a separate video talking about 10x thinking, how you can think big like a product manager, why it's very, very important. Check that out. Next, after you've put all of that together, you need to create a decision space. You can either make a table where you write down all of the different options. You can make a 2x2 to try to limit the decision space. Favorite go-to in consulting for decision making is a 2x2 grid. If you can just get things down into a 2x2 format, you make it a lot more understandable, a lot easier for everyone around you and you yourself to process and make a meaningful decision about. But if there's too many decisions and you can't break them down to their smaller constituents, then you can make a decision tree. If you do this, what happens? If that happens, what is your next choice? What happens as a result of that choice? Anytime you know a decision path, write it down. If you don't know a decision path, write down the possible variations and the likelihood that those decision paths are going to happen. So if you do X and you know the result is going to be either Y or Z, take your best guess of what the chances are of Y happening versus Z happening if you do X. And it's okay to estimate here, and whatever data you don't know, you definitely need to be able to use your intuition, rely on your intuition if you don't have the actual data. Use your intuition to make up for the missing data. Use the team's intuition if you can gather it in a way that does not confuse people further. But ultimately, you're going to have to make a decision. So after you've done all of these steps, you should be able to reduce and conquer the ambiguity, and you should be able to draw or design or write out the decision space that you're in, and ultimately get these decisions to a place where you are able to compare them apples to apples as opposed to apples to oranges, because you've broken them down to their ingredients, you've broken them down to their basic level, you've drawn out a decision path, you've filled in as much data as you could and the rest with intuition, and you're ready to make a decision. There are a whole lot of skills that you need to possess in order to be a great product manager. Make sure you watch the video on the top 10 skills of a product manager. It gives you a great overview of what you can expect. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button and share it with your friends that may be interested in building software, building products, or businesses. Of course, don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell so you don't miss anything, and let me know down in the comments what topics you'd like covered next. And thank you separately for the 500 subscribers. Really appreciate each of you subscribing and watching the videos. If there's anything else you'd like to see, please let me know down in the comments below. I respond to all the comments. Thanks very much. I'll see you next time.